to a show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. This week's guest is going to be a good friend of mine. We've been trying to do this for a while. Finally got our schedule synced up, and it's about time we sat down. My guest here today is going to be Mr. Seth Rice. Seth actually helped me out with another podcast I worked on before. He made the logo for a Why So Nerdy podcast, and I'm still blown away by it. The guys loved it. I love it. And they've since kind of disbanded, which is heartbreaking, but it's like when I saw your work, I was like, okay, you got the feel of what they're going for. So thank you for that. And not only is Seth a great graphic designer, he also does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, snap.
Like, who would have thought I would have a Jiu-Jitsu guest on?
Who would have thought?
Seth, how you been, man? Thanks for doing this with me.
Man, I've been doing good. Like I was saying a minute ago, like when I first saw you, like December, where did it go? It just kind of flew by.
I mean, it's just that time of year where it just happens that way. We think, all right, cool, Thanksgiving's here. I got, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever for Christmas, and that turns into 2 weeks. And here we are.
Yeah, pretty much this whole year drug by, and then just November and December, it was like, oh, surprise, bitch, it's 2022.
Yeah, it's crazy to even think 2022 is coming up. That's fucking bonkers.
I know, right? But then again, I never thought I was like, oh my God, 2020 is coming, and now we're about to enter 2022, and I'm just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, it's like we hit 2020 and then just kind of played leapfrog straight to 2022, and that shit doesn't feel right to me. I still think it's 2019. So
it still feels like it in certain regards.
With jiu-jitsu, how long you been training?
I've been training full time since 2011, and then 2009, I want to say I was really introduced to it like properly, and then caught, I guess lessons on and off. But 2011 is when I started doing it full time. So a decade, it's been my main pursuit pretty much.
Cool. What got you into it?
Well, I grew up doing martial arts and like different, I guess just whatever was available. I'm from like Northern Nevada, and so like Southern Nevada, Western Nevada, like there's Reno, there's Las Vegas, and those areas are like much bigger. But the Northern Nevada area, it's a lot of mining towns, and so it's pretty decent population, but it's just spread out all along the road between because you have about, like where I'm at, Elko, I'm about 4 hours in between Reno, and then 3.5 more hours to Salt Lake. And so I'm like right in between them. And so on that stretch of road, that's I kind of just grew up in that area. Like I own gyms here now, but like I grew up just along this strip, I guess moving for like my dad and stuff like that, and whatever kind of martial arts programs would be available. Sometimes I'd get thrown in like a goofy program or something like that, and you pick some weird stuff up that you never ever forget. Like some corny sensei tricks that I was like, man, I never want to be like that guy when I grow up. Just people move in this small town for a year and then skip out on everybody's last payment when their contract was up with the railroad, and then just skip town, things like that. But then, like when I tried wrestling when I was little, my dad won't buy me wrestling shoes, man. And so I had to wrestle without shoes. My nails kept on getting bent backwards. So like I didn't care for wrestling so much when I was younger. Um, but I did it from time to time, and then like up to high school and stuff like that. And uh, it was just kind of like a secondary thing. Martial arts was just something like I grew up with. My dad was a really militaristic guy. And so we basically age 7, it was like Sparta in our household. My dad like gave us our first sparring match. Realistically, I don't know. I look back, he just kind of beat the crap out of us. But man, it made you feel like you had your first sparring match, and then after that, like we learned to spar and stuff like that. And like we had a rule in the household, like if it didn't bleed, it didn't count. And so I had an older brother, and then after my parents divorced, an older cousin. That was my older brother's best friend. And man, I just had to start getting tough. So I started taking the weights more serious, and martial arts, I guess, a little more serious. And like wrestling, my 10th grade year, I got jumped and wrestled down to the ground, and somebody beat my face in through better grappling, and I was like, never again. And so I had to get back into wrestling. And I don't know, there was just like different things in and out, but basically what got me into martial arts, like I guess full time, was I kind of got pulled into it in college. I started to hear about jujitsu a lot better. And, like this, back in the like everything on the internet days, there was still, how things would circulate, and you'd hear, what your dad said, and you'd be like, what the? So, like basically a fight I got into high school, like my dad was telling me about this strategy if you're going to fight an older kid, about these jungle boys, down from South America, wrapping up around people and then like hitting them. And like, I mean, he had it wrong, but at the same time, he had, like there was so much mystique behind it. I was just like, okay. So basically he taught me how to pull guard, and then just to like plan on, like just get a hook around the neck and, like pummel the face. And, oh my gosh, that was the stupidest thing I could have ever done, because I had to go fight this kid near the end of the school year, and fought him in a graveyard. And man, I thought I was dead. And basically what happened was I pulled guard, but when I pulled guard, I had my fist cocked, and my elbow slammed into the concrete, but then his face slammed into my fist. And, just like through the frame, I guess, he just went face first right into my frame. So I didn't even really throw a punch. He just wasn't expecting me to pull him back, and he fell right on my fist. Now, I mean, oh man, that like really messed up my elbow, but I wasn't, telling anybody. Everybody was like, what happened? I pushed him off me, and then he's just out. And I was like, in my head, I didn't even know what was happening. So I just kind of walked off, tried to do the mysterious badass thing. This was 9th grade. And after that, it was years later, I'm, like getting back into martial arts, and with some buddies at college, and everybody's talking about, this was right around when Brock Lesnar was getting ready to fight for the title. So leading up to that, everybody, everybody seemed to know about it all of a sudden. So everybody was talking about it. And I remember in high school, everybody wanted to like wrestle until tapping out. And I wasn't still familiar with it, but I was like, okay, till submission. Sure. I watched WWE, and like, I was bigger and stronger than most kids. So like they'd be trying to hit me with like some technical stuff they saw off the TV. And I'd sub them out with like the walls of Jericho or something like that. And Well, see, that was the thing, is like I took that attitude into, like the serious training. So everybody was like really, really getting into it. And then all of a sudden, the Gladiator Challenge. No, 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 no. It wasn't the Gladiator Challenge at first. It was like Mike Stidham's Ultimate Fighting, like Ultimate Combat Challenge out of Salt Lake, way back in the day. Um, he started coming to Elko a few times, and when they came to Elko, it kind of caught my interest. Caught everybody's interest really big, because the fights on the Indian colony, um, man, they could get away with some wild stuff. And it was, still kind of the, wild west days of MMA. Um, those days were, starting to clear up, but really leaking into the, like the small towns where we were, at, it was crazy. And so like the Gladiator, I think like two big things happened. Like the Gladiator Challenge eventually came along, and they brought in Dan Severn. And when Dan Severn came in, um, actually, like my 10th Planet coach, Stephen Aiken, he came and fought Dan Severn here in Little Elko, Nevada. And when that happened, I was just like 18, 19 at the, yeah, I was like 19 at the time, 19, 20 at the most. And I was like, man, it's starting to get pretty serious in Elko, if, like they're starting to bring in, like bigger names now, versus it just being the local fights. Maybe this is something to look into. And so I didn't really like get to know Steven back then. That come into play years later, but so like that was, like the really big thing. And then like I said, everybody was talking about it, and finally, like your friends, because I wrestled and other things, and like so people from high school knew that, like I knew how to handle myself. So they invited me to some backyard brawling. And but the thing is like, it was just kind of like everybody was just kind of like doing a backyard open mat at the college apartments. And everybody was just kind of showing each other things, and then just kind of, like wrestling around. And so like there was one native kid there that was just bigger than a son of a bitch, and fucking, he was just tearing everybody up. And my buddy pretty much volunteered me to, like wrestle him. And he apparently had experience. And I don't know, he was trying some things on me that I had never seen, but I kind of handled it. And then when I started to get the better of it, then like then he was like, "Oh, I gotta shit myself." Like, "Oh, you gotta get up." And I was, mid in the middle of it, so I was like, "Oh, okay, well, what's up?" Okay. But then afterwards, everybody was like, "Okay, hey, you want to train with us?" And then next thing you know, like more open mat settings at different, gyms around town and things like that. Um, like within a few weeks, like my friends started calling me coach, and I was just like, "Yo, no, I didn't ask for this. No, like I'm not the coach. Like, Mm-mm. And pretty much from there, it just kept happening. And next thing you know, like we have a team. I'm the coach, and like we're doing pretty good. And that's like anytime that I'm not at work, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, and so 2011, like I quit my job, and left to do jujitsu full time. And but then my best friend died, and that kind of sidewinded the full time, like the truly, I guess, full time. I worked two full-time jobs, jujitsu, and like working during that time and stuff like that. But uh yeah, since 2011, I've been obsessed. um Man, that's like I told you, brother, I can go on these tangents, like, like I travel a lot, and so people always ask, like the story, but I don't really, like, I don't know. I guess I don't normally tear into it so much, but um I guess when in Rome, when in a podcast.
Well, this is the perfect place to do it though. You know, if I say, hey, what got you into jiu-jitsu, and you're like, fighting, it just left it there. It's like, okay, probably not having him back as a guest. Like if all your answers are like one word answers, it's like, okay, this no, we can't do this. But nah, dude, you know, you got you got the story. I'm here to listen, and so are the listeners. Um, so basically, yeah, back 2011, kind of kicked it all off for you, like full time into it. I guess becoming a coach, you know, like a full on coach and running a gym. How'd you get to that point?
Um, so so basically between 2009 and 2011, my focus was mixed martial arts because I grew up doing, uh, man, you name it, just whatever Northern Nevada offered. Like that, I had at least 1 year in so many things, and then just like my dad, he, like I don't know, I don't have the best relationship with my dad, so I don't throw him under the bus too much, but like he my dad was a tough son of a bitch outside of like outside of things. And sometimes, like I guess now that I'm older and I'm a professional, not all the, like not everything definitely helped too, but at the same time, I still got to give my dad like a lot of credit for the basics that he taught me with stand up. Like there's still things to this day when, like I don't know, everybody's got the newest, like DVD from
Yeah,
um you know uh yeah, basically I can't remember his website name right now, but anyway, there's the striking equivalent. And so anybody, everybody gets that stuff off there. And things that I learned when I was a kid from my dad have, like really held up to a lot of the highest level things. And my like my love of basics kind of came from that, because when I jumped into everything else, like my dad kind of taught me enough basics, mixed basics from other things, that I never felt like a fish, like out of water. Like I could jump into Taekwondo and then, like fling my legs around. Um, Back in the day before I lost all my ligaments in my knees. But I used to be able to flip my legs around really good. I could do karate, I could box, I could like like a lot of the like smaller town things that would come more often, like more available more often. But like Muay Thai, I think like was one that like caught my interest, but just wasn't always around as much as I wanted it to be when I was younger. Like jujitsu was, of course, like hell, even like really undiscovered. You know,
yeah,
so growing up, it was just so many different influences, but he gave me a lot of good like basics. And so being able to wrestle and having like good stand-up basics, and not knowing that I'm a good coach but and a natural coach, but just kind of jumping in and doing it. um like I'm coaching guys for like MMA fights, and we have people coming in, and like everybody's got like there's coaches back then, oh my god, blue belts, and dare say it, even purple belts. Like 10 years ago, that was serious shit if it wasn't like a master like on the coast, or
yeah,
like the big cities. Like, but even not all the big cities like had a jiu-jitsu guy at Kego. Or that jujitsu guy didn't know how to put himself out there, or wasn't as famous as he is now. All those different things. It was just so much more scarce. Um, and so like we were going in and doing all right against all these other people, except for like pure jujitsu guys. We got like the two losses to like our team before we disbanded. Um, we had like our first fight and our last fight, and basically jiu-jitsu guys went in there and worked some jiu-jitsu against us. We were like, what? And what in the hell? Triangle chokes us wrestlers jumped right into. And So like that's like 2011 when I've, finally went to go solve that situation. But like we just kind of trained around. We did our own thing. Out here, man, this is like really, it's cowboy country, and it was the wild, wild west, kind of in a sense. Like the Indian colony fights would come in. There was small town bad blood. There was, I mean, you name it. Fights would go unregulated. I literally watched, um, like one of my old buddies like elbow a dude so many times in the head, and Herb Dean knew this was an amateur fight. And Herb Dean watched my friend elbow a dude to where like he's never been the same. Like he's not, I don't want to say,
Wow.
I'm not gonna go out there and say retarded, but no, like he definitely, like, trust me, I've been hit in the head enough times. I can tell. Uh, Homeboy was different after that, and so
Yeah, it'll change you.
it was the wild wild west for MMA, man. But we just played around with it, and the biggest thing was like I ended up getting a pretty bad concussion. Like I know everybody's not going to be able to see, but like I got this scar right here across my like I got kneed in the temple, and when I got kneed in the temple, um, it was just during an old, like, just I don't know, just during like regular old training. But it's my friend Danny Ruiz. But yeah, Danny, I don't know if he even knows, but yeah, basically he just jumped into side control, and like I got a knee to the temple, and back, like farm boys, we didn't go to the doctor for shit. So basically I woke up, well, I went home and I went to sleep on it, and then I woke up 18 hours later. And
Sheesh.
at the time, uh, it was my ex-wife, when she was still my girlfriend. She was like, like, hey, are like, you okay? You normally don't sleep that long. And then I started forgetting things, and I'd seen my dad kicked in the head by a horse. So I was like, uh-oh. Because once she started telling me I was forgetting things, I was like, crap, it happened to me. And
Mm.
so I went in, and then yeah, they were like, because of sleeping, like I had some brain swelling, and so I was like basically laid up for 2 weeks. And like when I was in my house, even for like a portion of it, just I couldn't, like, my brain got so scrambled I couldn't think. Uh, it was like my computer, like my brain, it was like a computer that could handle one process at a time. And if I tried to do
Gotcha.
anything more than one process at a time, it would freeze for like 20, 30 minutes. It's like I would almost go kind of like brain dead. And it was just so
Yeah.
difficult. She had to ask me like one task at a time. Like, do you have to eat? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Like after giving me, like good enough time to answer. And like when I snapped out of that, there were like little itty bitty minor changes with me, things like that. And then the doc was like, well, you need a year off minimum from striking. Striking was my love. And he's like, two, if you really want your brain to recover. So I was like, okay, well, what I just went through, it scared me. I was like, man, I don't really care to have my brain scrambled like that again. Um, it just, it was something that I didn't want. Um, and I was just coaching. Like that was the thing. I was just coaching everybody. And then like everybody, like 2 years of it, everybody was like, damn, Seth, like, why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you fighting? And then I don't know, I got more like a little serious, like more serious with my own training for MMA. And then bam, that super bad concussion. But it turned out to be for the better, because that's what led me to jiu-jitsu. And
All right.
so like basically I was like, okay, I got to do something during this downtime. I have to learn. And so uh, Roy Dean had some DVDs out back in the day. Roy Dean had, like the Blue Belt Bible. And I was just yeah, basically a passerby through his, like through his school. And this this little tiny woman. I don't even know who the heck she was, ranked belt, and she just, like, at the time, like, I didn't know anything about Brazilian jiu-jitsu outside of they did submissions on the ground. I didn't even understand that they fought off their back, like, and so at the time, I'm a big wrestling farm boy. This was pre all my stomach issues and all that stuff like that. So I'm 220 pounds of, like, athletic. Um, I was very capable. Wrestling, you know, uh, lots of stand up. I was like, okay, what am I getting partnered up with this little girl for? And then they're like, okay, we're just gonna do the old warm up by sparring, by rolling. And when rolling, I was like, sparring, what's going on here? um and so they explained, they just, like, it's like wrestling until the tap. And so I was like, okay, I could do that. But still, are you, like, Roy, are you feeling okay? Like, I don't know. There's this dude that I watched on my, like, on the app, and then watched, like, DVDs, and I was like, like, you seem so wise. Are you crazy? He's like, it's just different. And basically, okay. Slap hands, bump knuckles. She loop choked me, and then I refused to tap, and then I was unconscious. Because I was way bigger than her, over 100 pounds easily. And she, like, it took her less than 30 seconds. And I was like, on the inside, I couldn't believe it. I was humiliated, like, because I was like, man, I should have hulked out if she was going to, like, do something like that. And then, but I was like, she's clearly capable. Okay, I'm not going to kill this girl, but, like, okay, she's clearly capable. So slap hands, bump knuckles. And, I'm like looking, like, to not let her grab my collar, because they threw a gi jacket on me. And I was like, okay, I can't let her grab this thing. And when I was busy about that, arm drag behind me, rear naked choke. I refuse to tap. I wake up. Roy is telling me, okay, if this happens again, you're not going to be allowed to practice here. You got to tap out. Okay. And so from there, um, like, basically, like, it was just a great lesson. Uh,
Sure.
and he, like, they told me to pay attention. I paid attention. After I paid attention, like, literally by the end of the lesson and seeing everything happen in real life, it changed my life. So by the time I end up going home and like, coming back, like, I unfortunately never trained with Roy again, but, like, it was definitely so, like, I don't know if Roy remembers some random dude who just, I follow him on Instagram, but uh, just some random dude that came in his gym and got choked out twice, and, like, it changed his life. And I went on my way. But yeah, it changed my life forever. And so I just kind of took that and moved forward. And but then my best friend died, and that kind of, like, derailed me, like, mentally for a little while and things like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But so some friends end up pulling me back into it, like, a little more seriously, around 2013. And people started hearing about, like, what I had done before, because, like, the fights kind of died out and things like that. And so some other people, like, had heard about some of the training that I gave people, and so they were trying to egg it out of me. And then, like, shout out to my student, Curtis Roper. He don't live here anymore, but he it was when I was basically between jobs, and like, all depressed from my friends. So, like, I got a job at Walmart, and stocking shelves at night. And he's like, man, like, I know you from, like, from somewhere, and I just don't know what. And then things like that. And he was like, hey, like the way that everybody talks, it's like, I'm a boxer. And so the thing is when you talk about fighting in a room full of men, you can quickly tell who can and can't fight if after enough conversation in it. He's like, you always look like and talk like you know what the hell's going on, but you're keeping a secret. And at the time, like, I don't know, like maybe I was being like melodramatic, like I'm just like, I'm young, and so I was just like, no, I stepped away from martial arts for, like this 6 month period in my head. I was like, no, I'm not, I think I'm, like I'm done with it. And so they kept on trying to egg it out of me. And then so finally one goofball who doesn't know a damn thing, and he's basically right, he knows who I am, and so he's telling everybody he's this martial arts master and things like that. And other people are going to train with him and coming back and saying like, I don't know what the hell this guy's showing us. And he would talk some smack about me, but I was just like, whatever, whatever. I'm not paying any attention. And then finally one day it was like off of work, we're all getting ready to walk out. It's funny because my gym's like like I'm literally looking at Walmart down the hill from you right now. So that's why I keep looking over. But literally, yeah, I'm like, we're getting ready to walk out the door, and this guy Andrew is like, hey, we are gonna, like go down and, like train and stuff like that, talking to those guys. I'm gonna show you guys some moves, this or that. And they were like getting ready to go down, and they asked me, and I was like, nah. And then he comes up to me, and like, this is the first time that I guess he got as bold as to put his hands on me, and put his hands on me and gave me like, like a tight squeeze around the shoulders, and like tried to like jerk me around a little bit. And he's like, don't worry, I'll show him real technique, Seth. And so I was like, oh, you know what? Never mind, man. I'll go down there. I kind of just like snapped out of it for a second. And then it took me one time. I went down to our local powerhouse gym, and that's where they were all working out in their open room. And I went down there and showed them, like some basic jujitsu and stuff like that, like some like scissor sweep, a hip bump, and then like how to actually like like work a closed guard and break people down without a gi, in order to get the sweep, and then some basic stand up stuff. And by the end of it, I was like, man, I didn't do anything too special. I'm walking out, and then next time I walked back in, the gym owner was waiting for me and was like, basically like, hey man, you want a job? I was like, what? That's crazy. But okay. And so like I got into it, and then as I got into it and I started teaching more, that's when I was like trying to get something going along. But Elko is also a working town, and so a lot of people will come through. And this is the thing, is like we had a couple people come through that knew jujitsu, and the problem was is like when anybody, like, I don't know, I want to say like back in the day, I could take it to a blue belt sometimes, but if they were slick, they'd like they'd know how to like trick me into a submission if they had like something, especially if they knew how to like bait like wrestling tendencies, or like headstrong, headlong tendencies. They'd always catch me. Like if I could, like if I could wrestle fuck them to death, like if I could Khabib them into the planet, if things like that. If I really like a lot of wrestling pressure, a lot of strength based grappling.
Okay.
I I was like really, really big into weightlifting while I was wrestling. And so like my wrestling style like really reflected that. Like I love bear hug takedowns, things like that. So like clinching with people, or, like, shooting on people, it didn't really bother me. Um, so like, all different ranges, like long range, because my karate, mid range, mid and short range fighting, like I was comfortable with my hands, because like because of boxing influences. Probably like karate and boxing influences when I was younger, probably the biggest. And then when it came to like, yeah, on the ground, it was just just wrestling. And being, I guess, smart enough to hit people when I was on the ground versus just like wrestling the entire time, like punching them to open them up to, get into better position. But, you know, uh, it wasn't until I saw, like the complexity of jujitsu, and I started to really understand. Because like another experience that I had when I was younger is like, like I went and um, grappled with Jake Shields, and to just like a dumb kid, like pass him to his gym in San Francisco, and like long story short, he smashed the shit out of me. But he was just being nice. He wasn't, like tapping me or like crazy. Like he tapped me out a few times quickly before he saw, like now I'm looking back analytically. At the time, I was just like, oh my God. So I stood and like I got up and I was just like, man, you are so strong. And he looked at me like, and at the time I didn't know that was an insult and things like that. But I mean, he was really delicate with me now that I look back. But at the time, I thought I was getting the worst smashing of a lifetime. So, like I really didn't understand jujitsu. And then my original, like ex partner, Chris Myers, SBG, came in, and he came into Elko, and like I give it, I give credit, even though like uh, business wise, he handed me over, and he's not in business, anymore, obviously because of antics. But I'll just leave it at that. Like he came in, and he came from SBG, and he had been doing jujitsu for like I think like 7, coming on 8 years at the time. And and he was a purple belt. And man, he would just, you know, all the small town boys that knew all those other things just in strictly grappling, though, like when you don't know anything, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
how much you can push it, man, you can jump right into some arm bars and some chokes and things like that. And so, like, like he just beat the living hell out of all those local boys and, jujitsu and stuff like that. So, like we got started with it, and I don't know, me and Chris quickly kind of like seemed like we were hitting it off and things like that. And yeah, well, yeah, seem I just say seemed to myself, young trusting Seth at the time, still in the early 20s, willing to sign papers without looking at him, young trusting Seth type of ordeal. But basically, man, we started getting, like after it with the jujitsu, and we were starting to look at building our own program. And we took I think like I think we took 10 competitors up to like the Northwest Submission Challenge in Idaho,
Nice.
over there in Boise. And it's a big one that they have every year. And when we went to it, yeah, we took 10 people, came back with 11 medals, like every person medaled. Lots, like lots of success there. And so when we came back, we were like, oh, yeah, we should go for it. So we end up going to open our own gym. And then long story short, after a year of success, like basically I trained for 11 months. I got my blue belt, things like that. But yeah, about a year's success at the gym, I got squeezed out. And then from there, I kind of had to refigure things out. And I guess that's really kind of like the next chapter. I wish I could go into my SBG chapter a little more, but yeah, man, just a lot of I don't know. No need to stir up this small fish bucket any more than it already is. But yeah, basically, I was just young and trusting, and like no hard feelings, like really towards like anybody SPG or anything like that. I mean, everything turned out better in the end, and yeah, I just like leave it at that. But during that time, I got to travel around a lot, and like I'll take a break from talking here in a second. I feel like I
Hey,
got to give you an opportunity to talk, but
it's your show, Seth.
oh,
That's why
there's
you're the
people are going to be
guest.
like, man, this dude can talk. This dude can talk.
Hey,
But
it's better you than me because there's some shows I take over and they're like, did he have a guest this week?
but like basically with SBG, I traveled around and I learned a lot. And the biggest thing is like I still to this day I give nothing but respect. And like when everybody asks me, like what was like my most influential, I guess, mentor and things like that. In that time, like he may not know it, but Travis Davison of SBG, he's the vice president of SBG, and man, that dude taught me a lot in the short amount of time that like I went to his gym in Montana and learned from him. He just taught me worlds, and like I'm really like big on observation, and so I was just trying to pay attention the entire time that like I worked with him, and he really showed me like because I grew up with like I want to say a business background, but the thing was is and then even like managing gyms like Powerhouse and like golds and things like that is different than getting into the situation of a martial arts gym. And so he really showed me what a martial arts gym is capable of. And that's really when my brain started to tick on those things. And so I'm, like SPG did great and everything like that. Like I don't know the story too much. I really try to keep to myself. I don't know how things went too closely after I left. But like when I was there, it was great to see Elko's first program, like legit program growing. And then on top of that, everybody was scared to charge more than $50, like a month for lessons back in the day. And we were the first people to come along and like we started charging $75. And oh yeah, man, like our whole team got us together and everything and said we were crazy. We can't do it. And we were like, no, we have to break this mold because every other gym that came along in the area, like before us, like basically would be there for less than 5 years and close down because they would jump owners, like it would, um, different financial, like reasons and things like that. So we're like, well, the biggest thing is like nobody's charged enough. Like we got to be the people to charge enough. We got to break this as is, many people look at us like we're crazy if we know what we're charging, like well, cheers Travis, like basically what he told us with the price. He was like, man, you guys got to be brave enough to do it.
Yep.
So we did it. And, that's where things kicked off. And that's like basically as a white belt. Um, like my ex partner Chris, he was working a job at the time, so I was I was there all the time, like pretty much 24/7. I was at that gym. I was there for every class. I was teaching people privates, all that stuff. Um, the basics, and like I got to give that to Matt Thornton. Like his fundamentals, his basics, his love of that stuff really rubbed off on me. And so really like each position kind of having, like fundamentals to it versus everywhere I'd been before was just like technique. Here's some techniques. And then it's kind of up to you to kind of learn to put them together. And so like learning transitions, learning how to hold position, learning where to be in positions, things like that. None of that ever occurred to me. And so it was just okay. Like basically, like if it was skateboarding, we were all learning kick flips, but nobody was teaching us how to, actually ride our skateboards. And so like we all knew how to just sit still and do a kickflip. But if you were like, hey, actually do this armbar live, I'd be like, if it happens to occur naturally, but I don't know how to work my way up into that point. And so
Yep.
it kind of changed my direction, like that I was learning everything like that and the complexity. It just took over my life. And that's like really when I started, like wanting to make that transition. And I worked with kids before and I would always teach them like stand up, especially. But I didn't realize at the time, why it was so hard to teach kids stand up like in comparison to grappling. But when you're a kid, your range is constantly changing. Your balance is constantly changing. All your regular sparring partners, the exact same thing. So it's like if you're going to learn good timing, that's really difficult for a lot of kids. Versus grappling, all your partners are always different. sizes, everything like that. You know, like it just translates for kids seemingly easier. And so I started to teach kids jujitsu there at my, you know, in my first SPG Oko gym. And man, like that's when I fell in love with coaching. And I was like, yeah, like this is no longer going to be, you know, like something I'm pursuing in the hopes it turns into something more. This is something that I want to do like 100% through and through. And then, like I said, like basically a good year of it, I got squeezed out. And so I had to refigure things. So that kind of opened up a different chapter of my life. And, but that's, you know, like, you know, at that point, I already knew what I wanted to do and I wasn't pursuing anything else. You know, like martial arts and jujitsu, you know, like in particular with you know, like the main things that I wanted to pursue full time.
So essentially, what I'm gathering from all of this is that you're a self-made, homegrown martial artist, basically. Like you know, you didn't, you know, stumble into something, you know, train with a specific academy for X amount of years, and then say, you know what, you kind of grew into it. You just kind of from the ground up built yourself up, and here we are. So that, I mean,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
more or less every day, everything prior to when I met Chris was like I had to travel. I had to travel. I had to travel to go and get. And then yeah, it was like we would travel like, you know, like everybody, I don't know. It's funny. Because you know people can talk about it poorly, but then at the same time, like look at how many, you know, like way back in the day, Rich Franklin talks about, you know, like he's training in the shed off of, you know, like off of DVDs and things like that. Back in the day, we were just working with what we could, and we had to travel, and then just wherever we could train to make it happen. Like we honestly back then we didn't even know what we were chasing. We were just local jokers, man, just trying to get, you know, get tough and you know, pursue this and see where it leads. And you know, so many people fell out of it, fell out of it, fell out of it, and you know, like, well, you know how it is. People, so many people fall out of martial arts throughout the years, and I just stuck to it. And so, like, the longer I stuck to it, the further things, I guess, would advance for me. And it was, and like, I mean, up until, you know, like my first gym, that like pretty much almost happened organically. Um, it was like everything just almost fell into place, place. Like I don't know, I worked a regular job. I've had a total of 5 regular jobs. And then like, I had, you know, like the longest job I had was, my first big job out of high school, working out at the gold mines as a welder and then like a mechanic and stuff like that. And I made ridiculous over $100,000 a year, working half the year, like ridiculous amount of money out there. But uh, like I said, after jujitsu, I left it all behind, man. It's
I
like,
mean, if that's not your passion, you know, my grandmother used to always give me a hard time about wanting to teach,
mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Don't do it. You know, you're not going to make a lot of money." And you know, at the time, I'm a, you know, I think I was just graduated, and you know, I said to my grandma, I was like, "Grandma, I would much rather make, you know, pennies." But love my job because of what I'm providing and what I'm doing versus making hundreds of thousands of dollars and having no time for my family and just hating life because of whatever that job is that I'm doing. You know, is hollow. So, hey, man, jujitsu's, you know, in combat sports, period, you know, speaks to you. You got to listen. So, I mean, like I said, that's impressive. You know, just where you came from with all of this and your growth into it. So, like, I'm blown away. That's why when you say you're talking a whole bunch, it's like, yeah, keep talking because I'm
see, I'm over here
fascinated.
thinking like I'm gonna have to have him like come back on a separate podcast where I time myself to break every 7 minutes or something. Like come up for air like at least more than every 20 minutes.
Hey man, like I said on here, it's whatever you want it to be. Like if you want to tell me, if I ask you one question, you want to tell me a 40-minute story, or to get that answer. Hey, it, it is your party. It's your party.
Yeah.
Um, so with making that leap into gym ownership and just coaching and everything, and having us all kind of snowball into what it is now. You said you have well, what's the name of your gym?
Loyalty Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
So, which I believe I follow a couple of those Instagram pages.
Oh yeah,
So
I have Loyalty BJJ Elko and Loyalty BJJ Winnemucca.
I definitely know I follow the Elko one. So I remember seeing the name. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" It's like, yeah, because you'll see tons of gyms with just whatever names they have, and it's just like, you know what? Don't question it. As long as they're into it and they're making it happen, they could call their gym, you know, folding chair. You know, as long as they're getting the job done. It's a weird name. Call your gym folding chair jiu-jitsu. It's like, okay, I
You
don't think I'm
know,
fucking training there.
yeah, I'm not gonna go out there. Like everybody's got their own personal taste and things of like where they want to do, like with their gym. And like mine, like I don't know, mine I had like a little bit of a story, like for like actually naming my gym, because like how we got our name, like Rice, like it's actually not original like translation. Like like people have seen like the movie like The Godfather, when
Mhm.
like people would come in through immigration, and like they would just get names given to them based off of where they came from, get names given to them based off of like how they could pronounce their names, things like that. And so
Yeah.
Ryzen traveler, traveling, like based around that word was in German, my last name. Uh when yeah, my my great whatever it is, grandparents migrated here like to farm. Yeah, they just, oh, you're farming rice
Simple
versus this
enough.
Ryzen stuff. So rice from Ryzen. So um and so like from there, uh like I don't know, that story always struck with me, because then this is the other thing, is whenever I would train all the other martial arts gyms, things like that, it didn't matter where, like especially like with karate and stuff like that. Straight up, man, the Asian kids would burn me all the time, like every one of them. It didn't matter. It didn't matter like if it was taekwondo or if it was like a karate gym, or even like a Wing Chun gym. Maybe like rice. And then like have a fun time laughing at it and stuff like that. And when I was younger, like it was like one of those things where I was like, okay, can you guys, everybody's getting their name, like, oh, can you write my name? And then they write my name, and then it would just be like plain, like the plain rice symbol, and ha ha ha, there you go, white boy. There's there's just your rice, your bastard name. And then so like the story of us coming here was a bastard name. In martial arts, it was always viewed as a bastard name. And even hell, like part of my like my gym's history of like how it was formed and things like that, that's like some of the people that like voiced their opinion about it were like, your kanji is like it breaks the rules of kanji in this and this way and things like that. And I was like, well, that's okay. That's exactly what I like it for, because you know what, I follow the rules, and the rules will get you bit, fucked
Yeah.
over sometimes. And so sometimes you just gotta forge ahead and make your own rules and play it by your way. And I mean, obviously now to like say this, like this day and age, like like there's Higan Machado and lots of other cool, like big name people running around with loyalty shirts on right now. Um, so like, I don't know, like that kanji couldn't have been too bad because it's made it pretty far. But like I really, when I wanted to start getting into, like I guess gym ownership, I was like, okay, now I got to make this more personal. Because the first time I was like, like honestly, like you're scared to embark out on things alone. And so I didn't have the confidence in business wise to like handle things alone. Um, and then two, like, you know, he was the connection to the jujitsu world. But the thing was, is like, you know, like still no, you know, like hard feelings, you know, it's like a dude who's been with the organization, like, you know, like coming up on 2 years versus a dude, you know, who's been in the organization, you know, like 9 years, you know, and then at the same time, like I was young, dumb and hurt afterwards. And so I kind of just disappeared and, just, you know, just went into the shadows, started, you know, like working my ass off and saving up money. And, so I just saved up money, and then I also got into Bitcoin early. And so, well, I was just saving and listening to podcasts, you know, like working at Office Max early mornings and things like that. I was just like, okay, you know, like thinking, how can I get back? How can I get back? And so, crypto was part of it, and then just being driven towards a goal. And so, off of like I was working there, and I think 2 months they promoted me to a manager, and then I spent the rest of my time there as a manager. And but still, you know, like retail management, it only has you can only make so much, and so like I had to be smart with all my money and things like that to get myself into back into position. But so then I opened my gym, and then like basically a bunch of people that were like my students, and you know like uh and I hate to, you know, like I hate to say it like that, but you know, like that large, you know, like more than half that gym was like you were here 90 to 75% of the time, depending on the month. In comparison, like this is, you know, like this is not the same, like things like that. And then you know, it would have been one thing, but I got squeezed out dirty, and so like when that happened, I was like, well, I'm a blue belt. I see other blue belts doing it. And at the time, I was talking to a couple other black belts, and all it takes is like all it took. Well, with any of them was a couple rolls, and they were like, "Okay, you know what you're doing." And then you know, like they'd watch me teach, and they'd be like, "Okay, you can do this." So, you know, like everything like that, I was confident enough, so I just opened my own gym, and then I had some other, you know, like coaches to follow, and originally, you know, like they were supposed to be, you know, like helping out long term things like that, but small town business antics. I end up, you know, like without coaches and just being a, you know, a solid blue belt coach again. Um, you know, with my own gym, without any black belt, things like that. Um, but I just decided, like basically when I was surfing for black belts to, you know, like pick as a coach, I got tired of like honestly all these big town black belts trying to get their hands into my money,
Of course.
and it was always something. Um, so whether it was surfing or like all the different people I surfed around with, um, like I even because like the other thing is like I knew that I was obviously good because I had been able to open a second gym and keep it going. Um, we had great results in competition. Um, you know, like our students did well. Like everything went well. Like nothing put, you know, nothing that like, oh, we're struggling, you know, like barely know what we're doing. No, like I had black belts trying to, you know, like trying to like coax me into their, you know, like into their organizations, things like that. But I really got sick and tired of, um, man, like that's probably something I could probably spend a whole day on, like, and yeah, honestly, like it's something that like in the He Machado Association, and like we're actually like, it's a program out with the head Mark Massey. I want to get kind of rolling in the future is something he talked about, like a gym rescue program for like basically for people
Cool.
that get, you know, like fucked because of politics. And there's a lot of gym politics in the upper levels, and you know, students don't realize it. And I wish it wasn't so much like Cobra Kai, but damn, is it like Cobra Kai in the, you know, like the upper levels of things? And so like I don't know. Um, it's just, yeah, I started thinking about the Cobra Kai. I was just like, man, it's a damn shame that things are, like so much like that sometimes. But um really, like, we just, like try to kind of stick to our own and work hard, and it just paid off. And so just being a hard worker, knowing that what we're putting out is quality, knowing that we're not, putting people into a bad direction, knowing that my students have gone out and competed and come back, closing out divisions, things like that. Like, we do well. And so I felt I didn't, like, I caught a lot of flack for it, but I felt good about being a blue belt team leader. And so, like, eventually, I think, like, really what, like, kind of made up my mind um was, I'm not gonna throw, I guess, I'm not gonna throw anybody, because, like, jiu-jitsu world, people, take anything as shade. But like, basically, I worked with, like, I started to get the Hensel Gracie group a little bit. And during a John Danaher seminar, I went and talked with him for quite a while. I ended up getting his attention away, and man, I got lots of dirty looks for that, because people want his time. But he took like a whole hour out of his time, out of his trip and whatnot, to talk to me,
Good.
just about mentorship and the importance of it. And I remember he was talking about, I'm not going to say any names, but he was like, talked about certain grapplers. He knew the best grapplers, on the planet, and these things like that. And he's like, like, raging alcoholic, this person, like a saint, this other person, this, that, this. And he's like, what you need to do, like, with mentorship, is you need to go and find somebody that's going to mentor your needs, versus just going out and thinking that it needs to be a certain character. Because this is the thing, is like, we all have burdens and we all have this. So quit going and, like, trying to find perfect so much. And then I was like, okay. But then at the same time, though, too, he was like, things need to be right and they need to fit. And if things don't feel right, they don't fit. And so, like, basically, with the rest of the Henzo Gracie stuff, like, I end up having my knee blow out on me. This is like, also, I had to be a blue belt school owner through, like, basically, I didn't know at the time I had stomach issues leaking into my stomach. I mean, not into my stomach, into, like, my knees. And so I started to, like, grow these cysts in my knees that took up all the space in my knees. And they, like, basically made blood flow hard, made it prone to things happening. So I started, like, my LCL started popping. I end up losing, like, my left ACL altogether. Like, both my knees are pretty compromised. But I mean, the thing is like, like, we still, through all that, like, we were still going ahead, moving forward, and, like, growing and thriving and stuff like that. And so that's Hegan. I caught Hegan's attention. And so, and then Mark Massey was the head of the association. His association, he, like, really started to I guess notice me on Facebook. We started to, I guess, socialize more and things like that. And then eventually I came and checked things out. And like, the biggest thing that initially drew me in was Hegan really doesn't want to, like, try to mess with your business or tell you, like, this is the way that you're going to have to operate purchasing our gis. This is the way you're going to have to switch over to our business model, or borrow parts of our business model. Or, like, he doesn't mess with your business, but then at the same time, he gives you tools for your business. And so, like, there's lots of tools to grow, nothing to take away. And then the lowest, like, well, honestly, like, I've helped with the association to, like, with these things, and like, some of the absolute lowest costs in the entire industry. Like, it's, like, if you're listening to this, you need a good, like, a good coach. Like, talk about, like, the Higa Machado Association. And then there's lots of opportunities in it and things like that. And so But yeah, enough sales pitch for Hegan. But basically, yeah, he came in, and so I started working with, like Mark pretty closely, and really liked how the association was run, because that was my biggest concern was like, okay, how's this association gonna go? Because man, there's a lot of poorly run associations. And so I was like, I just don't want to be in a circus where everybody's hating each other and it's just nothing but tension. And Hegan had such a big association. I was like, I wonder how things are going to go. But it's honestly really friendly, really great. It's been, like a big step, because like for the longest time, I mean, I got all the way up to, like these levels up to like when I joined the association, like they were like, how long you been a blue belt running around solo, like manning your own gyms, everything like that, and like close to 6 years. And you're like, oh yeah. So like I went in and like tested for like my next belt, and it was easy breezy. And like, and then everybody that I wanted to, like test for, like next belts and things like that is like, like easy breezy. We knew which, like we knew what we're doing, things like that. And so from there, like we just continue to grow. But that's when I started working with Hegan more. And that's like when I definitely felt like way more at home in the association, because I like I've been other parts of the association where, like it's even as a school owner, it's the big name and you hardly see them. You don't really get to know them. They don't take an effort to get to know you and stuff like that. And so when Hegan went to go and get, and like stories of Hegan and all the times in the academy in Beverly Hills, or just Beverly Hills in general, that'd be a whole different podcast. Oh my God, the stories. Hegan is a crazy man. He's a lot of fun. But yeah, like basically I got pulled into the association and started to know people. But the first time I met Hegan, I think honestly why he took a liking to me was like my first couple minutes of talking with him solo. I was like, look, Hegan, I'm going to be pretty blunt with you. I don't like to be fucked over. I've made everybody that I've worked with rich, and I'm tired of making other people rich. I'm not gonna play, like games with other people getting in my money, with other people taking advantage of the situation, with other people. And then he just cut me off. He was like, my brother. Like he's famous for, saying that, but like he's just like, that was the first one I remember getting. And then he was just like, not with me, my friend. I'll help you, but I'm not here to take from you. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep moving forward and get more involved. And basically, when I went up to train with Hegan, I got invited up there to train and, like meet some crazy people and start training with, some crazy people up there and stuff like that. But I started, like working with him with some of my art stuff, and then like for the association, and then like for like getting to meet some people up there in Beverly Hills for some art. And so like, like that really opened up. Like he's just like, no, I'm not here to take away. But then on top of that, we kind of clicked. And so I don't know, like it's definitely a crazy transition from when I first started into this, of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be this coach. I'm not sure how this is going to happen, to, okay, I get pulled into I'm being a coach, to now, like business has made this horrible. And then now I'm this blue belt pariah, like, all these things. And then it was just like, no, everything, everywhere I've read, everything I've seen, in my heart, I know, keep pushing forward, keep grinding, keep all these things. If you know in your heart what you're doing is right and true, you're not, scamming, you're not Detroit dusting people out of their money, but like what you're teaching people, will work against a resisting trained opponent. I think, that's the big difference between modern and like traditional, is like you need to be able to, it needs to work against a trained opponent. It's got to work in ninja versus ninja combat. It's not ninja versus regular person. It don't work that way. But
true.
so like, to making the transition to like working with Hegan and not just becoming like, you know, like a member of his association, but like getting into, you know, like work with his inner circle and things like that. I tell you what, small town, you know, jiu-jitsu boy, never saw himself here, but, and then on top of that, I'm like becoming like slowly working my way into the 10th planet system as well. Uh, you know, like from, you know, nobody is like, well, everybody's like, blue belt pariah to like, I'm going to be, you know, like I'm like a Higa Machado 10th planet school. Like, my goal is to have, you know, like I want to have that Machado belt. And, I think it would be cool to kind of do, you know, like what Rogan did and get the 10th planet black belt as well. Like,
Yeah.
because like I think, I don't know if there is anybody else out there. I'm like, somebody out there listening, tell me. But I don't think there's anybody out there. Like I think like Joe's got the Jean Jacques and then the Eddie Bravo. And I mean it's the
Yeah.
same lineage and stuff like that, but I mean separate belting. Um, well, you know, people out there got the I don't know. There's always some kind of belting antics or something like
Sure.
that. Everybody's always got something to say, so I'm just like to hell with it. Like, um, why not shoot for the stars, man? So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's kind of the direction that I'd like to take it and things like that. But I mean, really, is like my path into jujitsu was like a rocky, crazy one, and I mean the struggles. Hell, dude, I could go on for days of the types of crazy struggles we went into opening the gym to maintaining the gym, from gym splits to, you know, like, you know, like the years where we were looking for black belts when like I really got to see the underbelly of like how fucked up a lot of black belts are. Um, you know, like it's been a crazy journey into jujitsu and just getting started, you know, like just getting started really, it feels like sometimes, because now, you know, like I'm finally to the point where like I gotta, you know, like I got, you know, good people coming up and got a, you know, got a decent prospect, and you know, everything in the coach life seems like it's finally, you know, like all coming together. All the hard work from my youth, from my 20s, is finally starting to pay off.
It takes some time, but you know, we learn those hard lessons growing up. You know, bump our heads against the wall over and over and over and over, but eventually you get there. So I mean, you've got a hell of a story, and it sounds like we've got so much more to dig into. So I mean, good lord.
Well,
Um,
I'll tell you, I'll look to wrap up here soon, because man, if I go on another rant, it'll be the end of us both.
well, trust me, you're definitely gonna be on here again because I I've got other questions. I want to hear these other stories. I got to know, and I'm sure the people listening, it's like reading a book series. It's like, okay, this is book one. When are we going to get book two? So we'll definitely get you back on here with our crazy schedules. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah,
So, um, just one last question before getting out of here.
go ahead.
Um, and you know, just trying to test the waters here. Have you seen Spider-Man yet?
Oh, no, I'm waiting till Thursday. I'm gonna see
This
it Thursday.
this is back-to-back episodes here that I've got my guests. Look, man, I sacrificed myself last week to see this damn movie for you. For you. I love you all. I did it for you. Hey.
Be strong. Be strong.
Doesn't matter though.
But I
There's
will talk a little Spider-Man then, if you want to talk Spider-Man, because literally last night, I went back and watched the first Spider-Man, Tobey
same.
Maguire. Now, this is the thing is, when I was just in California the other week training with Hegan, um, me and Jeremiah in our hotel room, he threw on The Amazing Spider-Man. So I
Yep.
watched The Amazing Spider-Man, and then I watched the original Tobey. Now, this is the thing. when I was watching, because this is like when the Amazing Spider-Man came out, I loved it. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. I loved it so much it got me back into reading comics again as an adult.
Nice.
Um, the thing was, it was a love story. I think they weren't so afraid to dive into with the Amazing Spider-Man, and because they built it up for the death, and
Yeah.
that to me was like what originally as a kid got me into comics.
Mhm.
That was the first like comic that I got was, oh, there's like there's the Green Goblin getting ready to throw Spider-Man's love off the bridge. And I just, that to me was, oh my gosh, that was the first comic. That was the intro. So I fell for it hard, but just watching it recently, I was kind of like, oh man, this isn't as good as I remember it.
Yeah, it's
I
tough
still
going
love
back.
it, but
Like when we go back to those, hey, I remember when Spider-Man came out, X-Men came out, all these movies. I grew up a comic book fan. I was a comic book nerd. These movies come out. I'm excited because we're going to get them on the big screen. Yes, it's about time. We're about to get these Marvel characters out here, and we're about to see. And the first Spider-Man, it was fine for what it was then. X-Men, we said it was fine, but really it wasn't. But we accepted it. It's like that cousin that you don't really want around, but you
yeah,
accept them.
those X-Men, the original, I think it was by like X3. Oh my god. Oh
X3, man.
yeah, that's a podcast in itself. But like,
Oh, I
but
no, I've bashed that movie probably on the first maybe 15 episodes. I've gone in on that movie at least 12 out of the first 15 episodes. Fuck, I hate that movie so much.
oh yeah, I was so excited for it. I remember as a kid, and then
Hmm.
well, as I think at that point young adult, but like I was so disappointed, and I tried to watch it again like a decade later, and I was like, what the fuck? How could this be worse than I remember it?
Dude,
But
I when I want to get angry, I turn that movie on. Like when
that's
when when I want to
In the
hate
Name of the
something.
King. In the Name of the King for me is the worst movie I ever saw. So I want to get angry.
Mm.
I throw that one on.
uh,
I try to sit through that movie for somebody, and they try. We had no idea, and they tried sitting through it for me. And so, like by the end of it, we got out. We were both saying how we wanted to scrape our own eyeballs out with spoons, and then we were like, "I sat through it for you. I sat through it for you." We're like, "Fuck, we should have just communicated."
it's the key. I mean, I went to well when X-Men Apocalypse came out. I was excited because Days of Future Past was good, and Apocalypse, they had the post credit. We're about to get something good, and just the Apocalypse story has so much to it, so much depth. So I'm thinking, oh my god, we're about to get multiple movies. We're going to get the whole Angel story, the Archangel story build up. We're going to get just all of this. I remember we went as a team, the Nerd Rage Radio crew. We went up there. What was it, like 5 of us? I remember we walked out of that theater, dead silent. My one buddy Joe pats my shoulder and goes, "Dante, I'm sorry." And like, and I just shook my head. I was like, I don't even know what to say. We went back, did a podcast, or no, we did a YouTube review, and I was baffled. I was just it. I had a couple of friends who were like, "Oh my god, what are you talking about? That movie was so good." It's like, if you don't get the fuck away from me, like I will stab you on the spot.
I don't know how the fuck you could think that movie is good. I just don't know
Uh,
how like yeah, it's fucking amazing how bad certain movies come out. But that's the thing is like I rewatched like I started watching the second Spider-Man before I started to fall asleep, but
yeah,
the first one I was just like, wow, holy shit, this is like good. Like cuz I watched The Amazing Spider-Man and then I was like I feel like when they redid the Amazing Spider-Man, they were like, Spider-Man 3 was so bad. Like they're doing it,
yeah,
filming it in a new style. Like we can just kind of like, I don't know, like not put any depth into the only thing that really had depth in the Amazing Spider-Man. The second one was better, but the Amazing Spider-Man, the original one, the only thing that really had depth to it was like the building love story.
yeah, absolutely.
But the
Uh,
first like original Spider-Man, they had everything. Like I was fucking amazed. I hadn't watched it in a decade plus.
I went back and watched because with the new one, this isn't spoiling anything. We know from the trailers, the villains are coming back.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I
So
know, I know that at least some major people. I saw a few of the
yeah,
leaks, so I know that people are coming back.
yeah, it's and that's why I told my wife I had to see the movie opening day because I can't risk any spoilers because I'm the kind of person I don't care about spoilers. I want to be spoiled, but for this film and what the expectations were, I was like, you know what? I want to go in blind. I don't want to know anything. Just spoon feed me all of this. And look, I'm gonna tell you, as a grown man in his 40s, I cried 4 times during that movie. Like I was like, holy
Don't
shit.
don't tell me that because man, I have personal ties with Spider Man, dude.
Yeah, same,
Like
same.
like
You know,
great. He was the guy that pulled me into it. Like man, even all the way up to like I got some like old love life feels along with
yeah,
like the Spider-Man, like Spider-Man losing his girl, man. I
yep,
tried my ass off, like things like that. Like, oh, I relate to Spider-Man. So like even watching the first one, I was like, how, like when the emotional moments came along, it had me
yep,
thinking, like literally, I was like, hmm, this Christmas movie is coming out during because like my last Christmas I was single, but it was the last one was my first one single. So I kept myself occupied.
sure.
I was with family, like everything. This one, the first, like I set myself up to be working. Big mistake. But so like I'm sitting here, like just with a bunch of, I guess in my mind time and stuff like that. And that mixed up with like, yeah, Spider-Man. I was like, oh man, I might fool man girl like I might cry if I go there too. I'm gonna have to watch who I take.
Yeah, so I went by myself and I sat next to it was a relatively full theater, not completely to capacity, but there was a decent amount of people in there. And I'm sitting next to, actually, I think the seat on my left was empty, so that's good. But the seat on my right was a heavier set fella. It's weird because with comic books, I grew up a comic book nerd, got picked on about it. And the thing is, I was bigger than most people. But it's still kind of got that. People still say things, and it's like y'all realize I could fuck you up, right? Um, but it's like now in these days, it's like all those people who picked on me are now the people that are into it. So this guy sitting next to me looked like one of those guys that would have picked on me as a kid. So sitting there watching the movie, there's the earlier part, it felt a little um clunky, but I think that's by design because of just the way that you got to bring in those villains, and then it smooths out in the second part, and then that third act, it does it. Like there's a couple parts that just there's terminology used, there's just kind of old tropes played back to, and then the overall ending of it all, it's like I'm sitting there like, and I'm thinking this dude next to me is like, man, I can't let this dude see me crying because we gonna fucking fight. I know we will. So, you know, I kind of blink my eyes a little bit, kind of squeeze real tight. It was like, all right, chill, son, chill. All right, and then I could hear him next to me, kind of sniffling. I was like, okay, all right, all right, all right. Like lefty loosey, let it loose, go.
See, I've just learned the free flow technique. I don't fight it, I don't snip. I just let them eyes flow. And then when they're flowing, that's like you do something like you just like get some popcorn. Ow.
I'll have to try to remember that. And the thing is, I want to see it again, but it's just like time wise, I just can't muster it. Now, I am going to be doing an off the mats nerdcast episode. Um, Full spoilers, I believe January 8th. So it'll be coming out
Oh,
that
that'll be long.
that
That'll be
week.
long enough.
Well, yeah, I figure it's like, look, it's long enough. If you haven't seen it by this point, and I'll put the warning on there, spoilers galore. If you walk into that episode and
It's
you
your own fucking
listen,
fault.
yeah, you did this to yourself. So, for anybody interested, stay tuned. January, I want to say it won't be the episode on the 10th. Um, Whatever that Thursday is, Wednesday or something of that following week. But we're going in and just spilling all the details. But like I said, you're gonna enjoy it. It's I don't like playing the game of which Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man and which Marvel movie is the best Marvel movie. But out of my top five MCU films, at least, this jumped into the top five. It's I believe it's number 4 right now, but it just had everything, and it leaves it where you just don't know what's next. And the producers, Kevin Feige, has already confirmed that um, Tom Holland, his Tom Holland Spider-Man, he will continue on as um, you know the MCU. So it's just like weird because where it ends, it's like, really, okay. I want to see how this goes because it's very
Open-ended.
yeah. I mean, if they said we're done, they could end it right there, or they could say we've got some because they're actively working on Spider-Man 4 right now. They said so. Um, yeah. So be
Oh,
prepared. It's gonna be a good time.
I'm
Hell,
just looking forward to like when I see this one. Like I want to see, because just when I was watching the original Spider-Man, I was like, how many old things can they tie back into the new? Because like with Jonah Jameson, he's
yep,
talking to Tobey Maguire, and when they're thinking of like the Doc Ock and that like Doctor Strange, and he's like, nope,
yeah,
that one's already taken. And like I'm just seeing all this stuff. I'm like, were they plotting this shit back then? Because he's literally the dude who says it is coming back to play the same role. I'm like, in a same. So
so
I'm like,
so I love to think that they were playing the super long game. It's just I know back then Sony had full rights to the Spider-Man contracts. Doctor Strange was Paramount, and a lot of them were all under Paramount and Universal.
there's
I think
not enough
Marvel,
conspiracy theories about movies.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, there's so many different conspiracy theories that it's just like my head spins. I'm just like, okay, I'm out. Which is why I just stopped reading it all, except for there was an interesting theory talking about what they could do moving forward, because the mid credit scene is really cool, and then the post, like the end of the credits, the Doctor Strange 2 trailer is out, so that's what that is. So
Uh-huh.
you can stick around for that. But for all I know, they might put something else there now because that trailer's out. So they
Mhm.
could actually put something else all the way at the end. But the mid credit scene, pretty cool, and it kind of gives you a sign of you know where the story could possibly be going. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting in the next couple years. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up here. Seth,
Oh,
again,
right there. Boom,
thank
we
you.
just hit the half hour, hour and a half.
Well, hey, no, that
Well, hey, thank you for having me, Jake. Like,
this was a great time, great just conversation. Period. And then wrapping up with some Spider-Man talk. So kicking it old school, how the old original off the mats used to go. Seth, where can we find you social media wise, and any shout outs that you have for us?
you can find me on the BJJ and Food Dude. So at BJJ and Food Dude. Um, I mean, you could go follow my gyms if you want to. You're just gonna be getting, pictures, local class pictures. No pressure there. We all us jujitsu people follow enough jujitsu pages.
I
But
think I got 5,000 that I'm following right now. So
yeah, it builds up. But that's I also have my art page. I haven't been posting on there, but I've got a lot of projects that have been in the works and things like that that I've been catching up on. Um I mean, you guys, like, yeah, I haven't even posted my UFC Gotham comic on there that I did for Hegan. Um and yeah, like I got like all types of cool projects in the works. Yeah, you go see on my page the UFC Gotham. Go watch Robert Pattinson. I had to make him look tough. had to build him up for the new movie. So we did a UFC Gotham where Bruce Wayne, he's gonna be fighting in the UFC because Egan makes him toughen up Bruce to find the real bat, some shit like that. But yeah, you can see cool stuff like that on my like my art page, my art projects. I do like filmography, like film. I just fuck up the word completely, but I do I like just lots of different projects. Like from watching my page, I do all different types of things. So I mean, if you guys are interested, like just flipping through my Instagram, like I do lots of cool like gym art pieces for people. Like everybody has like that like that gym centerpiece where they take their pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
I do like these awesome gym lineage pieces. Yeah, like check them out. Like at my say my coach's school, Stephen Aiken, 10th Planet, Perry. He's got that like hanging above his mats. Got some other places hanging them up, but I spend too much time talking about that. Yeah, go check me out. I got lots of different art projects. I do lots of cool things. Get some cool artwork for your gym done. But no real shout outs except for you better watch this one, people, all the way to the end to listen to me talking right here. Now you can die. I give you permission to die.
I'll get all the links posted up in the show notes as well for anyone that's if anyone actually reads the show notes. I don't know if anyone ever does, but at least like when I put like links there at the top versus at the bottom, because I'm sure people by the time they get to them, I was like, okay, enough. Where's the post credits? So I'll go ahead and put the links in the show notes, and otherwise, everybody else out there always listening, thank you so very much. We do appreciate all the support the show has gotten, just all the love. It's nice. Like the dude that's just sitting here talking to friends, and you guys sit in on these conversations. So I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Big shout out to our guest here again, Seth Rice. We appreciate having you on the show. And big shout out to my friends over at Armbar Attic, Eric and Allie. They were on the show last episode. Great time with them. So go give them a follow. Go check out the website. Go get some of those new rash guards they're putting up on pre-orders. Shout out to Colompton Social Club. That's my other podcast that I do with my buddy Stevie. We review beers. Not very well, but we do. So if you want to learn about what different spices and berries they put in some of these beers, go listen. Steve has the notes. I don't. I just drink. And also check out coming up on January 7th, my new podcast, So You Like Horror. That will be episode 1. We're going to kick it off with a roundtable discussion about horror films and just our likes and dislikes and just having a good time. Otherwise, again, thank you, everyone. Appreciate all the support. And as always, if you guys keep listening, I'm going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.